So my grandma died a week ago. It really hurts. I think the thing that hurts most about it is people's reactions. We've got it in our mindset that grandmas are the type of people that are supposed to die. Grandmas and grandpas are old, so they die. Grandmas and grandpas are supposed to die. Children in Aleppo are supposed to be blown up. Police officers are supposed to be shot. Black people are supposed to be racially profiled. They're supposed to be shot. These are the things that our culture has taken as established truths. Heath Ledger's character, the Joker, says that it's okay for us. We don't bat a tear when certain people die. It's just when other people die. Now, some people would take that to mean that life is meaningless, that life is pointless. But reality, I think the opposite is true. I don't think that we shouldn't mourn when the people that we don't expect to die, die. Is that confusing? What I'm saying is that we live in a place that's pretty messed up. So messed up to the point where we've begun accepting things like death that I would argue we were never meant to experience. Once there was a professor, and this professor gave two scenarios. One was curing cancer, and the other one was creating a great work of art. And the professor said that they would rather create the great work of art than cure cancer, because curing cancer, you're prolonging the life of a few mortal people, but in creating the great work of art, you're actually doing something that will last throughout the ages. But my problem with that is, first off, it's totally dehumanizing. It totally makes us less important than matter. There's no such thing as altruism or freedom or joy. These are all things that are just illusions. Love is a foregone conclusion. There's no such thing as love in that kind of a worldview. The other thing wrong with that scenario is it doesn't provide sufficient meaning for me. Art is true. It survives a long time after those who created it are dead. I mean, look at the Louvre. It's full of beautiful, beautiful pieces of artwork, beautiful expressions of human emotion and thought and creativity. And all of their painters are long since dead. But the reality is that as time moves away, as more and more art and people fill up the timeline, the less and less important things become. The idea that grandmas are supposed to die is so horrifying to me in a selfish way too, because one day I will not be a grandma, but I'll be a grandpa, hopefully, if I live long enough. If I die before I'm a grandpa, then it will be a tragedy. But somehow, when I become a grandpa and I die, well, at least he lived a full life. I guess what I'm saying is, selfishly, I want my life to matter. Ecclesiastes says that God put eternity in the heart of man. There's this idea that we want to keep living, keep surviving. Yeah, but what about these people who say, oh, I'm done with life, or I'm tired of life? Well, there's depression, but we wouldn't consider that to be a normal human state of being. Some would say, well, what about these old people who are like, well, I've lived a full life and now I'm ready to die. The problem with putting those people as the example is that they oftentimes do not have a very good quality of life about them because of the aging of their body. They're not able to do things as well as a young person. So say take a 90-year-old, just for the sake of argument, and put them in a 20-year-old's body or a 15-year-old's body, and I don't think that you would see that desire to die. I know it's fanciful. But the idea of eternal life, I don't believe that that is fanciful. I'm not one of those Christians who likes the idea of the word proof. I don't think that the word proof is very scientific. I would never assume that I could prove God to anyone. So I'm not going to provide you any proof of what I say being real, but I will share some evidence that I think is compelling. Pain is what lets us know when something is wrong. Pain lets us know that something has gone wrong with our body. If you break your leg, then you know. Pain tells us when we're in a bad situation. I'm hurting right now because I love my grandma. I'm hurting right now because even though our family knew that she was on her way out, as it were, we loved her. I remember having tea parties with her, feeding the ducks with her at Lions Park. I remember her watching my brother and I play this Top Gun video game on the old PlayStation, even though she had no understanding of it. I remember painting with her, watching Bob Ross with Grandma. One time she made us peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on onion bread, and it had been refrigerated. Refrigerated onion bread, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Grandma was a hoot, and I miss her and I love her, and I'm in pain because she's no longer here, because she's no longer alive. And this tells me that something is wrong. This tells me that something in my world is broken. I'm a preacher. This is a very emotional appeal. It's not very intellectual, I understand. But it's something to take note of, and it's something that I believe does have a basis in reality. We're in a world of pain. We're in a world that's suffering. We see people dying. We see people hurting. And we think this is the way it's supposed to be. When children in Aleppo, and grandparents in Aleppo for that matter, and fighting-aged men who die with an AK-47 in their hands die in Aleppo. When that kind of stuff happens, when people are shot simply because of the color of their skin, when people in our communities who wear a badge and try to stand for justice and protect us, and they die and we just excuse it as inevitable, why do we say this is normal? We can talk about the historical accuracies or inaccuracies of the date at a later time. At this time of year, we celebrate the birth of Jesus. Jesus isn't some I'm in the sky waiting with lightning bolts to watch you make a misstep kind of God. When you are immobilized, when the world is at its worst, when there's so much pain that we start coping with it by saying it's normal, Jesus comes as a helpless, defenseless child, an infant. So this happy little scene with Jesus right here, dressed in gold, this didn't happen. He doesn't elevate himself when we're lowered. He lowers himself. There's something terribly wrong with this world, and we're so stupid that we try to justify it as normal. That this is the way life has to happen. And it's not the way life has to happen. Jesus wants to save you. Jesus wants to save your grandma and grandpa. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. And not some, I'm going to pray for a Lamborghini and if it doesn't show up in my driveway, I'm not going to believe in him chance. He's asking you to allow him to change you, to change your heart. I believe I will see my grandma again.